employee. In May
No,
of 2021,
one was filled with Amanda Golightly and the other had become vacant.
Currently filled and occupied one position that had become vacant.
No,
When do
one
you
was
believe it
filled with
became
Amanda
vacant?
Golightly and the other had become vacant. Goodness, I
One
would
position that had
say,
become vacant. When do you believe it became vacant?
I believe it may have become, I don't know. I don't remember, but I know that the individual that did depart did it so it may have effective immediately. I don't know. But I don't remember when that actually took place.
How
The individual
long,
that
if the
did
position was
depart
still vacant in May
did
of
it so
2021,
effective immediately.
how far into
But I don't remember
2021
when
did
that
position
actually took
remain
place.
vacant,
How long,
not
if the
filled?
position was still vacant in May?
Forward now to Monday, August 9th, 2021. Do you remember that day?
I do.
Were you in the office that Monday, August 9th, 2021?
Yes, I was.
Did it come to your attention that there was some news involving your office, the Mesa County Clerk and Recorder, as well as the Secretary of State, regarding an issue centering on the election side of the clerk's office?
Right, I do remember that day because the entire elections division was out of the office, which I found terribly surprising. There were also, I'm not sure how many county commissioners, but there were county commissioners in our conference room, along with one of our IT men. And you just knew something was going on. And I do recall that something had been filed with the Secretary of State, but those details I didn't really know.
Were you able, or did you have any communications with Brandy Bance, the elections director, on that Monday, August 9th?
I don't believe so. I think August 9th is when everyone had been removed from the elections and they were working from home or working remotely. So I don't recall any interaction on that day with her.
Okay, let me ask a different question. Did you have any awareness as to how Ms. Bance was responding to being sent home based on the news that involved the Secretary of State's office and elections within the clerk's office?
Unfounded speculation.
I'm sorry. Can you re-ask the question,
Yes.
please? And I'll sustain the objection at this time.
Did you have any firsthand knowledge as to how Ms. Bance was responding to what was going on?
I remember that they, her and Stephanie were very, very upset. They were emotional.
How do you know that?
I remember there was a buzz that I maybe have heard. I had heard a third party that they were very upset.
Effect on the listener, not hearsay.
Can I have counsel approach, please, just very briefly? At this time, I'm going to I guess I'm going to sustain the objection, but I'm going to give Mr. Shapiro a chance to re-ask it, just so it's clear in my mind where we're at. And if there's another objection, then I'll hear from Ms. Jones about that too. So go ahead, Mr. Shapiro.
Ms. Brown, I'm going to ask a different question. How did you respond to hearing about the news that led to the election staff being sent home?
Yeah, I was very concerned but confused. I didn't know what had happened.
Did you have any awareness as to whether Ms. Bance was confused?
I don't know.
Objection, Speculation?
It's a foundational question. Any awareness? So it's a yes or no?
Unknown, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Did you have any role with the Mesa County Trusted Bill that occurred on May 25th and 26th, 2021?
No.
Do you have any awareness of a memorable event that occurred on Thursday, May 27th, Friday, May 27th, 2021, that involved you and Ms. Peters, the 27th of May, 2021?
I believe that was when I was asked to ship a package overnight.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that, okay?
Sure, yeah.
You talked about shipping a package. What was brought to your attention regarding the need for a package to be shipped?
I was in my cubicle, and Tina walked by and asked if I could overnight a package for her. And I said, of course I could. I have a P card, which is a county credit card. So I said, absolutely.
Did you have any other interaction with then Clerk Peters about that request?
She had told me that Sandy Brown would be bringing me a package, and she had moved into her office, and she was on the phone all the while.
Let me stop you there. You're saying she, her. Who is the she or her that you're now talking about?
Sure. So Tina Peters had passed by my cubicle and asked if I could ship a package. I said, of course. And then she proceeded into her office while being on the phone. And so she's telling me I need to ship a package. So I went right to her on the phone and I said, what is the address? And who are we sending it to so I could prepare the labels? And while she was on the phone, she was communicating with someone who had then texted her the address, and I, making sure I get the address correct, I took a screenshot with my phone of the address, and I carried it back to my office, or my cubicle, and I prepared those labels.
Okay. So, in addition to what you just described, did you have a notice or an awareness as to who was going to be the recipient? You had an address, but who were you actually sending it to at that address?
Right, and I did ask for that information, which Tina Peters did give to me verbally, and I included that in the address label.
All right. What name did Tina Peters give you as who was going to be the recipient of this package?
Conan Hayes.
And when Ms. Peters said that to you, was she still on the phone with somebody on the other end?
I believe so, yes.
Here at this time, I'm going to show Defense Counsel what has been marked for identifications, People's Exhibits 24 and 25.
Yes,
May I approach?
you may.
Thank you.
Ms. Bryant, are you familiar with what is shown in People's 24?
Yes.
What does it appear to be?
That is my screenshot so that I could ensure the address was correct when I labeled the package.
And whose phone did you take the screenshot of?
Oh, it was Tina's phone. And I don't know if it was her work phone or personal. I'm not sure.
And does this photo appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the screenshot or the picture that you took?
Yes, it's identical.
Okay. Let's talk about People's 25. What does that appear to be?
So in my attempt to ship the package, I had prepared labels, return address, and going to Conan Hayes. But when I took it to the United States Postal Service, they had me fill out this label instead of using my sticker labels. So I filled this out. Tina and the clerk and recorder's address is from, and then the information that Tina had provided with Conan Hayes' name on there is what I transposed onto this form, and that's what they use for the label of the package.
And this particular package that you took to the United States Postal Office, was that at an office in Grand Junction or outside the city?
No, it was downtown Grand Junction.
And what was the weight of this particular package?
I recall it being pretty heavy. Exact weight, it will be noted here by the post office.
And we haven't admitted that yet.
And Your Honor, at this
so-
point, I'd like to
That's fine.
move to admit both 24 and 25 based on the foundation laid by this witness.
Objection.
No.
It is so, they are so admitted, 24 and 25.
And we're going to just publish it in just a moment, which means we're going to project it on the screen. But what was the weight of the package?
Let's see if it's noted on here. You know, I'm not sure if it's 5 pounds, 1 ounce. I'm not sure, but yeah, I believe it felt heavy to me, but it may just have been whatever's noted here on the packaging.
And how much did it cost the county to send that package?
It was about $70, but right here it does say $69.55.
And out of which budget was that $69 and change paid out of?
So when I returned with the receipt and the proof or tracking number, I gave it to Tina, and Tina said, let's bill this to elections. And because it was my credit card, I had to make sure my name was on this receipt so that it would be reconciled with my credit card activity. And so that's the reason why there's the label elections and my name at the top.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Permission to publish Exhibit 24, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Okay, now, I know it's a little awkward for you to turn around, but what's being projected is 24. If it's easier just to look at your exhibit. What is the actual address that you were sending the package to?
Your Honor, if we can approach sidebar and take that address down in the meantime,
Okay, come on up.
thank you.
Oh, I guess there's more. I guess there's more. Okay. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue with the examination here. Mr. Case, I'm sorry. He asked me if he could leave. He's got to prepare for stuff for tomorrow, and I said, of course. So he didn't want anyone to think he was just running out. So he's stepping out for now with the court's permission. Go ahead, Mr. Shapiro, and with the instructions we talked about a moment ago. You can put that back up on the screen.
I'm not going to put it up, so.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm going to ask the witness some questions. Ms. Bryant, what was the city where Mr. Hayes was residing at that you were sending the package to?
Right, so it was Agora Hills, California.
Agora Hills, California is where you were sending it to.
Yes.
And the package that you mailed to Conan Hayes in Agora Hills, California for $69.55 that weighed 5.1 pounds, who gave you the actual package before you took it to the downtown post office?
So all I remember is that Tina said that Sandy would be bringing me a package. And I can't remember exactly if she left it on my desk, it was there, or if she physically handed it to me. I can't recall. But I received the package. It was on my desk. It was wrapped in brown paper and lots of tape.
So you talked about the weight that shows up, at least on the receipt. Are you able to remember the approximate size or dimensions of the package?
Right up, I would say maybe 15 inches squared, more or less.
So your best estimate was the package that was provided to you that was with lots of tape was approximately 15 inches squared?
Yes, yes, that
All
is
right,
correct.
thank you. Did you ever meet someone who was purported to be an administrative assistant working in elections or working in the clerk's office by the name of Gerald Wood?
That position reported under me, and I was not involved with any kind of hiring or discussion on that individual, but I do not,
Sorry, Your Honor, non-responsive. He simply asked if she ever met Gerald Wood.
no,
Right, so.
sorry,
the answer
no.
is- Okay.
The answer is no, my apologies.
Given that the purported position reported to you, what role, if any, did you have in the supposed hiring of a Gerald Wood?
None.
If there was a hiring of an administrative assistant, do you believe you would have had a role in that hiring?
Yes,
Objection, speculation.
Overruled?
It means you can answer the question, Ms. Bryant.
yes, I would have had a role.
At some point, did anyone mention the name Gerald Wood to you amongst the leadership of the clerk and recorder's office?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Did who was Belinda Nisley?
Belinda Nisley was my supervisor.
Okay. Did Miss Nisley, your supervisor, ever mention the name Gerald Wood to you?
Objection, hearsay.
Co-conspirator statement?
I need to have counsel approach about that. The objection is overruled.
Ms. Bryant, when we left off, I asked a question, I was going to ask a question about whether Ms. Nisley ever said anything to you about somebody who might be coming in to work. Do you have a memory of that statement from Ms.
do.
Nisley?
Yes. Belinda advised me that they were going to bring in an individual that would be on a temporary basis to try out for that administrative position vacancy.
How did you respond to that from Ms.
Mm-hmm.
Nisley?
I said, of course, but I was thinking that's very unusual.
Why did you think it was unusual?
Because everyone should be going through that HR process to be hired and brought in any one of the capacities, working either for recording for elections or for vehicle licensing, right? There's a due diligence that I know HR would have had to have accomplished prior to bringing someone in to function in that capacity.
To your knowledge, in your tenure at the Mesa Clerk's Office, had you ever seen trial employees before?
Never.
Did you ever get a chance to meet the person Ms. Nisley was referring to?
I don't believe so.
And the last question centers on this, questions I should say. Were you asked to schedule a visit from an out-of-town guest who was known as Dr. Douglas Frank?
I was asked by Belinda to place this particular event on everyone's calendar. Myself, elections management, her and Tina, and also Emily Salas, who was our accountant. Yeah, I was asked to put that on their calendars, yes.
Ms. Bryant, I want to thank you for coming today. I have no further questions for you on direct examination. Defense counsel may have a few questions for you on cross. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Hello,
I'll try to be brief.
thank you.
I'm Amy Jones, and I represent Clerk Peters. You were hired in 2019, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I think you said your title was Administrative Support Manager in 2021?
Yes, that's right.
You indicated that Belinda Nisley was your direct supervisor?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you left Mesa County in 2021? You work
Correct.
somewhere else now?
Correct.
Okay. Did you regularly interact with Clerk Peters?
Not on a regular basis. However, Belinda was on a leave. And so for, I don't know, maybe a week or, maybe a week, Tina did ask me to, one, ship that package.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. All I asked is if you regularly interacted with
No.
Clerk Peters. Okay. You as an employee never had any complaints or discipline against you, did you?
No,
Fair enough. Would you say that Clerk Peters in your short time there was a fair employer?
oh yes, I enjoyed working under her.
Did she share with you about her son's accident?
Yeah, I'm going to object.
She
It's
did.
beyond the scope of direct
Sustained.
and relevance.
Sustained as to relevance.
All right, Gerald Wood. I think you said he was never an employee, correct?
I can't say that for sure because
Okay, well,
he was,
Just answer that, then we can talk about it.
sure,
You did not work in human resources, correct?
no,
Okay.
not in this capacity in Mesa County, no.
Right. So you weren't part of the hiring process or the HR process with Gerald Wood, were you?
No, not at all.
You don't know in your position how human resources handles full-time, part-time, or temporary employees, do you?
No,
Somewhere I thought I read that you said that you thought he was a contractor, Gerald Wood.
not that I know of,
Okay. But never an employee, true?
no,
Conan Hayes wasn't an employee, right?
no, not that I know of.
By the way, did you ever meet Conan Hayes or Gerald Wood?
No, not that I know of.
Did you ever talk to Gerald Wood or Conan Hayes?
No,
I think you said you were not involved in the trusted bill,
I was
correct?
not.
Did you ever hear Clerk Peters express concerns about needing to save data?
Objection,
No.
relevance, beyond the scope of direct.
Overruled? And that, what was the answer?
No,
I think you said Sandra Brown or Clerk Peters asked you to mail that package that Mr. Shapiro took up several minutes to describe, right?
Tina asked me point blank to ship a package overnight and then provided the address. Yes.
Perfect. To California?
Yes.
All right. You didn't know the person it was being mailed to.
No,
You had no idea what was in it.
no,
And you didn't know why it was being mailed.
no.
You saved the receipt.
I have to account for my credit card use. Correct.
And now we have that as an exhibit, right?
Yes,
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
my pleasure.
Redirect?
And just to clarify, you said you did not know Gerald Wood. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
But the administrative assistant position that was held by the prior person was still vacant. Gerald Wood was or was not an administrative assistant.
No, not that I know of.
Thank
He-
you.
He
No
did
further-
have an email address.
Say again?
There was an email address created for him,
Thank you.
but I never met him and he was never part of my team.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Questions for this witness from the jury? All right, I don't see any. Is Ms. Bryant here under subpoena? If so, she released Mr. Shapiro?
She is definitely on our subpoena. We are releasing her from our subpoena. I would ask the defense to do the same if she's under theirs.
Thank you for your time. You're released.
Okay, you're free to go. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
People's next witness?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. People call Pam Newman.
Okay.
There's just one original. There's no copy.
I will look for it.
Ms. Noonan, come on up here to the white strip of tape on the floor. I'll swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of law that the statements and testimony you'll give to the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please take a seat over here in the black chair. Once you're seated, please state your name and then spell your last.
Pam Noonan, Noonan.
She's your witness, Ms. Drake.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Noonan. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Would you please tell the jury how you're employed?
I'm employed by Mesa County Finance Division
How long have you held that position?
as a finance director since March of 2018.
What was your title prior to that?
I was the senior accountant or county manager.
How
I've
long-
had, go ahead.
Sorry. How long have you worked in finance for Mesa County?
Since March of 1994.
Ms. Noonan, if you could flip those exhibits over, please. Yeah, great. Thanks. Go ahead, Ms. Drake.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Noonan, would you just describe for the jury, please, your experience working with Mesa County Finance, just sort of a historical overview for them?
Historical overview, I started as a part-time fixed asset accountant. I have worked in the budget division and I've worked as an accountant and now the finance director.
Who is the custodian of records?
Well, the county is a custodian of records. For the finance division, it's our department.
And is it you specifically?
It's one of myself or one of our team members, yes.
Do you know how long Mesa County retains records?
It's based on state statute.
How long are the finance records maintained?
It depends on the record itself.
Your Honor, I'm going to enter an objection.
Which is?
Relevance.
What's the relevance?
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Okay, sustained.
Do you have something called a P card in Mesa County?
Yes, I do. And the county has a P card.
Would you describe for the jury what a P card is?
A P card is a purchasing tool, so it's very similar to what people would think of as a credit card. So the recipient can go and purchase items on behalf of the county.
Are there any restrictions on who has access to P card?
Yes, we have a policy and a form that each recipient who wants to hold a P card must complete.
And what sort of restrictions are there on the use of a P card in Mesa County?
Per policy, we have a lot of restrictions, such as you cannot use it to buy alcohol or obtain cash.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay, come on up. The objection is overruled.
Ms. Noonan, I was asking you about P cards and just trying to lay some foundation for what they are and how they're used and generally what the policy is, some limitations around that. I'm going to pivot now and ask you about a man named Gerald Wood. Were you ever asked by anyone to look for financial records regarding Gerald Wood?
Yes,
Who made that request of you?
the district attorney's office.
And why were you asked to look for records regarding Gerald Wood?
To ensure that the county paid for a CBI check.
Do you recall approximately when that request was made to you?
I do not recall exactly, no.
Was it sometime in the summer of 2021?
I think that is roughly correct, yes.
Did you find any records responsive to that request?
We did find that the county paid for a CBI background check, yes.
As to Gerald Wood,
Correct, that was the name that was utilized on the transaction.
do you recall who authorized the payment?
It would have been the clerk's division.
At that time, who was the clerk?
Tina Peters.
Do you know Miss Peters?
I know her through the office, yes.
Do you see her in the courtroom
Your Honor, will
today?
stipulate she knows who Miss Peters is and she's properly identified who she's referring to.
Very well. The record will reflect identification.
Do you know whether Gerald Wood was ever hired by Mesa County in 2021?
I personally do not.
Let's talk more about P-card records. If somebody is issued a P-card, do they need other authorizations to use the card?
So the policy requires everyone who has a P card to have their department head sign off on the application. One exception is an elected official would not have to have a signature, but they would still have to complete the form.
And what does the form require?
The form requires acknowledgement that you've read the policy and you abide by all of the policy within it.
Were you asked to look at P-card records?
I believe so.
Who made that request?
I believe it was James Cannon.
Did you find any information in response to your research?
Yes,
What did you find?
we found various transactions from the clerk's division.
Can you tell the jury, please, what sort of research you did to locate those records?
We use what we call the Eden system. It is a financial software reporting system, and we've combed through some different accounts payable records.
What did you do with the information you located?
I believe I communicated to James what we had found, and I believe provided a physical copy through email or through PDF.
Your Honor, may I please approach the witness with what's been previously marked and shared with defense counsel as Exhibit 26?
You may.
Your Honor, we have no objection to Exhibit 26.
Okay, it is admitted. Please, yes, thank you.
Permission to publish?
Yes?
Ms. Noonan, do you recognize what's been admitted as Exhibit 26?
Yes,
We're now looking at the first page of that exhibit. Were those part of the records that you retrieved in your research?
yes.
And what does that information show?
It is the receipt that we would have attached as a item to the Eden main accounts payable page, indicating that a transaction occurred for the post office.
Let's look at page 2 of the exhibit. And if we could enhance that, perfect, thank you. Would you just please describe for the jury what that record shows?
So this is the second page of the Eden documentation through accounts payable, which is how we process P cards for payment. The invoice number there, TXN, indicates it's a purchase by a P card versus an accounts payable, normal transaction through check. The description is the post office, and that the clerk's division, election specific, for the cost center, purchased an item for $69. And
Can you tell whose P card was used?
from this particular items tab, no. My speculation, it's Kelly Bryant's P card based on the description, but you'd have to look at the main tab to determine that definitively.
Ms. Noonan, it looks like in the box that is in the lower left-hand corner of that document, there is some indication of Kelly Bryant. Do you see that?
Underneath,
grant to Kelly Bryant to authorize the mailing of a package with her authority as an elected official. True?
Correct.
There is no violation of policy. True?
The policy also indicates it has to be used for county authorized activity.
Does not a clerk have the authority to decide whether or not she has consultants look at materials?
I believe a third-party use is appropriate.
Yes. So, just to be clear here, you've indicated it has to be for county use.
Correct.
The person who determines if that was for county use is the elected official. True?
Yes.
There was no violation of policy by the use of the P card by Kelly Bryant to mail at the direction of Clerk Peters. True?
Correct.
No further questions.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Questions for this witness from the jury?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Maybe not.
All right, I didn't see any hands. Is she released from everyone's subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your testimony today, Ms. Noonan. You're free to go. If you want to grab that exhibit and hand it to Ms. Drake on your way out, she'll know what to do with it. We're gonna keep going if that's all right. We're gonna take our mid-afternoon break in a little bit, unless someone needs a break now. All right, next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Belinda nicely.
All right.
Excuse me, Brad. Can you just pass me?
Ms. Nisley, if you can come on up here, please. You can come on up here, the white strip of tape on the floor. I'll swear you in. Please raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of law that the statements and testimony you'll give to the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Please take a seat over here in the black chair. Once you're seated, if you could state your name and spell your last, please.
My name is Belinda Nisley. The last name is spelled Knisley.
She's your witness, Ms. Drake.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just need a moment.
Okay. And I'll just let the jury know and the parties know, we will go until about 5 o'clock today.
Oh, okay.
So please prepare accordingly.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the delay. Ms. Nisley, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. I know you've had some medical situations. Are you feeling okay to answer questions in court today?
I am.
All right. If you need a break at any time, will you please let us know? And I believe there's some water there if you need some.
Yes, thank you.
Will you please tell the jury a little bit about yourself? What is your educational background?
My formal education has mostly been through corporate education. High school graduate, some college, cosmetology school, 20 years as Director of Education, Training, and Development for an international manufacturer. Have since 1980. And we have 6 granddaughters and a grandson and 4 great-grandchildren.
Are you currently employed?
I am not.
Were you employed in April of 2021?
Was, yes.
What was your job title?
Chief Deputy Clerk to Clerk Tina Peters.
Would you describe for the jury a little bit about what that job involved?
To my understanding, it was to see that the directions of the county clerk were carried out and oversaw the 5 divisions underneath her and reported to her with regards to those divisions.
How many people were you supervising at the time?
I don't remember the number. I know that I had the administrators and directors from recording, motor vehicle, elections, the accounting departments all reporting to me.
When you were originally hired to the Mesa County Clerk's Office, do you recall the date, roughly?
I started January 2nd in 2019.
What was your title then?
Clerk to the Board of the County Commissioners.
What did that job involve?
I was responsible for obtaining and maintaining the minutes from the county commissioners' meetings, posting them, being responsible for that, as well as liquor licensing and working with the taxation department. I can't remember now what it was with regards to the, I'm sorry, my brain's tired. The taxations of property, I can't think now what it's called. I was
That's
responsible
okay.
for all of that.
Were you promoted into a different role towards the end of 2019?
I was
What was the promotion?
to Chief Deputy Clerk,
Who promoted you?
Tina Peters.
And would you just describe a little bit more your experience with elections work?
I wasn't working directly in the elections department itself, but was overseeing staff and helping support the staff. I took online education for the elections department with Ms. Peters, with Clerk Peters, and helped facilitate any of the events that they had or the needs that they had for feeding the election staff, coordination with offices, and that kind of thing.
Did you review any of the statutes or rules that are applicable to the elections department?
I did,
Why did you do that?
wanting to have understanding and knowledge of the workings of the election department. Every department. I did it for motor vehicles as well as recording.
Who were some of your key employees at that management level in the clerk's office in April through about August of 2021?
In the elections department only,
Yes.
it was Brandy Bantz and Stephanie Winholtz and Sandra Brown.
And was Ms. Peters the clerk?
Yes,
I'm sure you got to know her quite well since you worked directly for her as her chief deputy.
yes,
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
yes.
Would you describe what she's wearing and where she's seated?
She's sitting at the table to your left, and she's wearing a plaid blue blazer and a tan top.
May the record reflect that this witness identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect.
Ms. Nicely, are you familiar with the security protocols for the tabulation room that were in effect in April through August of 2021?
Yes,
Summarize what those security protocols were for the jury.
there was required badge entry and required badge exit. Anytime someone went into it, if they didn't have a badge, they were there for a specific purpose, they had to sign in and sign out. And we as employees had to use our badges to swipe in and swipe out.
Were there any security protocols in the tabulation room regarding internet connectivity?
Yes,
Would you describe what those were?
We were told that there was to be an air gap, there was to not be any internet connectivity in that room, including a printer, that there were to be only the equipment that was supposed to be there from the state for the tabulation purposes.
Let's talk generally about a trusted build. Are you familiar with what a trusted build is?
The only familiarity I have with it is to know that it was an upgrade to software equipment. I knew that the equipment that we had received had gone through the trusted build process. We received it from Denver.
Have you ever participated in a trusted build?
I have not.
To your knowledge, was there a trusted build scheduled in Mesa County in May of 2021?
Yes, there was.
How do you know that?
From the Secretary of State sending the directive that it would take place and the parameters around it with regards to the COVID protocol. And the limited number of people that could be a part of it.
Did the defendant, Tina Peters, express any concerns to you? Were you asked to take any steps to involve other people in the trusted build process?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I retrieve exhibits 19 and 20 that are previously admitted and produce them to the witness?
You may.
Permission to publish exhibit 19?
Yes.
Ms. Nicely, we've put exhibit 19 up on the screen, but you have it in front of you, so that's probably easier for you to refer to the document there in front of you. Is that familiar to you?
Yes.
Would you please give the jury some context about that, about what you remember in terms of your communication with Lana Jordan and trying to get other people involved in the trusted build?
Clerk Peters asked me to contact the IT department for support during the trusted build due to wanting to protect the information and have oversight, which she did not have the knowledge of during that time. And I was told by IT that they could not be a part of it, that it was state equipment and that they didn't have anything to do with it. And she asked me to go back and ask them again to go from the IT person I originally spoke to, which was Dave, to go back to Lana and ask her if there was a way that they could support her.
Did you actually make those requests?
Yes.
And did IT continue to say they couldn't support because?
Yes, that's correct.
And why, again, did they?
Because they said it was not county equipment, it was state equipment, and that they did not touch it.
Okay. Do you have any personal knowledge about whose equipment it actually was?
Other than the fact Mesa County owned it, but the state had done the trusted build or the security part of it. That's all I know.
And just to be clear, you did not participate in the trusted build in 2021.
I did not.
Why was that?
I actually was not even here in the Grand Valley. I had, with our daughter and son-in-law, scheduled a trip to Capitol Reef in January of that year to be gone during Memorial Day weekend. And I did everything I could to support it leading up to leaving for vacation. And when I left that Friday, Sunday, I fell and it ended up triggering a heart attack. And I spent the next week in, after several ambulance rides, in a town outside of Salt Lake in their cardiac care unit. And then I was off the week following the trusted build as well.
I'm sorry to hear that. Have you recovered from that?
Yes.
Let's go back to the case and some of the work that was happening before the trusted build while you still were in the office. And I've given you also exhibit number 20, which has previously been admitted. I would like to publish that to the jury also.
You may.
And Ms. Nicely, if you just take a minute to look at that and then let me know if it's familiar to you.
All right, thank you. I am familiar with it.
Would you describe for the jury, please, why you were trying to get a new hire access to computer systems?
Clerk Peters had asked me to do so. That we had a position for an administrative assistant in the elections department to support Sandra Brown through in the elections department in the tabulation area and the trusted build. And she had someone that she said knew about computers and the workings of it that was going to come in as a consultant or to support during that time to get them what they needed to have access to as far as a badge and access to that area.
Did you try and assist with that?
I did.
How did you try and facilitate that?
I contacted the HR department and asked for the badge and sent the person over to get it.
Do you recall?
Get the background check through the Secretary of State to whatever process Stephanie went
Do you know how it was that Stephanie Winholtz initiated the background check for Mr. Wood?
I believe it was from me to Sandy or Sandra Brown, and then her to Stephanie. I don't know the process Stephanie used.
Thank you. And did you initiate that communication because of your communication with someone else?
Because of my communication, my direction from Clerk Peters.
To your knowledge, had the administrative assistant position that the defendant told you this person was being brought in for, had it been posted like you normally would post a position through the HR department?
I don't remember exactly how that process was or wasn't completed. I know that the position had been vacated and as such was available to be filled, but I know we did not interview for it. It just was given or said he was going to fill it. We did not interview for it, though.
Okay, there was no interview. Do you know?
Was going on with the elections integrity.
Okay. So that's interesting that Sharona Bishop would have a hand in having Mr. Wood come to the office. Did you ask him for anything when he appeared?
I just had to have his ID information or his, your right to work information. I don't remember if he took that over to, I don't know, he didn't give it to me, but I think he took it over to HR to get his badge. It would have been his driver's license.
Okay, was that information being provided or being requested of Mr. Wood so he could get his background check or so he could get his badge?
You're right, it was because of his background check.
And in addition to getting that background check information, did Mr. Wood also go through the badging process?
To my knowledge, yes, he went to HR for that.
Do you recall having any communication with Mr. Wood about getting his badge?
Other than directing him to go get it, no, I don't.
Okay. Let's talk about another event that happened in the office. Were you working on April 23rd, 2021?
I was.
Do you recall being invited into a meeting, into the defendant's office?
Yes.
Who else was present?
Clerk Peters was there, Sharona Bishop was there. I believe an attorney from Aspen was there, and Dr. Frank was there.
While you were in the meeting, was there anyone else present from the clerk's office?
Yes, I believe that the elections department was asked to join us, which would have been Sandra, Stephanie, and Brandy.
At this time, do you recall what was being discussed in the meeting?
An event that was to be held that evening to overview the data that Dr. Frank had gathered in regards to the 2020 election.
And what more specifically, what was the topic around election data?
They were talking about the fact that there were people who they believed voted who were not alive or where there were not eligible to vote. I can't remember exactly all that was discussed leading up to that event that night. I remember that he asked for a specific data bank of information, of election information, and it was told to him either by Stephanie or by Brandy that that was a form that they could produce or a document they could produce, but had a fee associated with it. And I believe Sharona offered to pay the fee.
At this time, you were the chief deputy of elections. Were you concerned to hear these ideas about phantom voting and voting not being secure or having integrity?
I was very concerned, not having had any other involvement with elections up until I had that position, or being in the political realm at all, other than voting. I had none of that knowledge, and it was very concerning to me that there was something going on or something happening, but not understanding what.
I think you mentioned that there was an event that same evening. Did you attend the event?
I did.
Were you required to attend?
I was.
Why, if you know?
Clerk Peters asked that all of us be there, that it was a mandatory meeting. And she had asked me to put it on the calendar, the election calendar, as well as her calendar, some weeks ahead of that, and that that time would be blocked off. I asked what it was for, and she said it would be discussed later, but that I was to block it off and that there would be a mandatory meeting that evening.
Do you recall who from your election staff attended that meeting?
Other than myself, I believe it was Sandra Brown, Stephanie Winholtz, and Clerk Peters and Brandy Bance.
Let's talk a little bit about surveillance cameras. Were there surveillance cameras in Mesa County in 2021?
Yes,
And were there surveillance cameras in the tabulation room at the elections office?
yes.
Do you know what the policy was on running those surveillance cameras?
Per the statutes that Clerk Peters showed me had to do with the timelines post the last election and pre the next election.
Do you remember the rules around that or the statutory requirement?
It was a certain amount of days. I do not remember the days exactly, but it's in the statutes.
In addition to the statutory requirement for running cameras around election time, was there a policy about how they were run in Mesa County that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Did the defendant tell you anything about having the cameras run or not run?
Yes, she did.
What did she tell you?
She told me that I was to contact the IT department. I cannot remember the gentleman's name. It wasn't Dave, but it was another gentleman in the IT department that oversaw the cameras. I was to contact him and give him the timeline to turn it off after the Grand Junction election timeline, the City of Grand Junction timeline, and so many days prior to the election that fall for it to be turned back on. He told me that it wasn't necessary for them to be turned off, that there was plenty of, I don't know if it was called cloud storage or their way that they were stored, but they were not, it was not necessary to turn them off. I went back to Clerk Peters and gave her that information. She told me to go back to him and to tell him that was okay, but she still wanted them turned off during that time period. And he, I believe I gave him a date that was in August for them to be turned back on according to the next election. And he said, I believe July 30th.
I'm sorry? Ms. Drake?
It's not being offered for the truth of the matter, Your Honor. It's just the context of what she did next around the cameras. What,
So, I can see that. So the statements being made to this witness that she's testifying to now aren't to be considered by you for the truth of the matter asserted. That is, whatever she's repeating someone else told her, other than the defendant, is not offered for the truth, but why she did what she did and what it informed her of in terms of her next steps. So whether it's true or not, that they could be turned on or off, or in this time or not, that time frame isn't being offered for the truth, but rather for why she did what she did. Go ahead, you can continue answering Ms. Nicely.
So he said to me that he wasn't going to wait till that August date because he was concerned that if something happened in turning them back on, that he wanted to be ahead of it. And I believe he told me it was July 30th was when he was going to turn them back on. And I went back to Miss Peters and let her know that.
What was her response?
That was okay.
Okay. Do you know whether the cameras were actually turned off?
I was told they were.
And did the defendant tell you why she wanted the cameras turned off?
That they weren't needed, that by statute, she didn't have to have them on other than the required time frame.
Your Honor, this might be a good time for a short break, if that's okay with you.
It is, because we're right at the time we would take a break anyway. So it's 3:02 p.m. We'll take our mid-afternoon break now for 15 minutes. Please keep in mind the admonishment I gave you. So we'll come back right around 3:17 or so to continue with the presentation of the people's case. All rise for the jury.
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead and take a seat, everyone. Ms. Nicely, you're welcome to step outside. You don't have to sit back down.